Looking at the role of parkin in synaptic ubiquitination. Parkin is the product of a gene that was discovered 12 years ago that actually causes Parkinson. It's a rare form of Parkinson. It's called early onset, which means that patients will develop the disease in their 30s, 40s instead of more typical 50, 60 years old age. So, as I said before, this gene, when it's mutated, will cause Parkinson's disease, and the product of that gene is a protein called parkin. So we're not too sure what the role of parkin is, but we have multiple clues, and one of them links them to a what we call a pathway in biology. So these are cell, the way that cell control its own division, its own mechanism, how it, for example, for a neuron, how it communicates with other neurons, and the most important for Parkinson's disease, the production of dopamine. So we're trying to understand the role of parkin in this process, and we know it's linked to what we call the ubiquitin pathway, which is involved in the degradation of other proteins. So we know that parkin, when it's active, causes a degradation of some other proteins, and that's actually what I'm going to look for. Right. So I think for people with Parkinson's, there's two aspects to it. One is what I would call prediction. If we can predict, looking at the gene, if we can predict if someone is going to have Parkinson's or not, is very important, especially if we have treatments available for those patients. But the other important thing is just to understand how the disease develops, right? So the most important thing in Parkinson's is there's neurons that die, and that causes the disease. But why these neurons die? And we think that parkin is involved in that process. So just to understand and to predict. So for people with Parkinson, I think we're looking at it's a longer term objective, definitely in our case. We're looking at maybe 10 to 15 years, but it's very encouraging. You see, that's the objective. So we're not, unfortunately, I cannot say this is going to lead to a remedy, in the next 5 years. But we now, especially I would say in the last 2-3 years, all these this genetic these genetic evidence, right, on their role on Parkinson's disease, I think will lead to either like medication or better prevention of Parkinson's disease, and mostly slowing down the disease.